Ever feel like you've spent your whole life paying taxes? Income tax on your salary, national insurance on your work, council tax just to live in your home, VAT every time you shop. And now, after all that, the government expects to take another big slice when you pass away. Inheritance tax. Now, it doesn't seem fair, does it? You've already paid tax on this money once, and now your loved ones could end up paying again. But here's the thing. There are ways to reduce the impact. With some smart planning, you can take control and make sure more of your estate goes to your family, not the taxman. Hi folks, and welcome back to Everything Estate Planning, where we aim to make estate planning clear, practical and accessible for everyone. I'm Jim from Elm Legal Services, and in today's episode we're taking a closer look at inheritance tax, what it is, who it affects, and the steps you can take to reduce it, or in some cases even avoid it altogether. Stay with us because later on we'll show how a bit of advice and early planning helped a family completely eliminate a £200,000 inheritance tax bill. Before we get started, it's important to say that everything we're talking about today falls under legal tax planning, which is a responsible and entirely legitimate way to manage your affairs. Tax evasion, on the other hand, is illegal. And nothing in this video should be taken as encouragement to break the law. We're focused on helping you plan effectively and stay well within the rules. So, without further ado, let's get started. First of all then, what exactly is inheritance tax? Inheritance tax is a tax on the estate of someone who's passed away. And in the UK, the standard rate is 40% on anything above the tax-free threshold. Right now, that initial threshold, called the nil rate band, is 325 grand per person. And if the value of your estate is below this amount, no inheritance tax will be due. Here's how the tax-free allowance works. If you leave your estate to your spouse or civil partner, there's no inheritance tax to pay, regardless of how much the estate is actually worth. If you leave your main home to your children or grandchildren, you may also qualify for the residence nil rate band, which gives you an additional £175,000 tax-free allowance. And this is on top of the standard nil rate band. This means that as an individual, your total inheritance tax-free threshold could be up to £500,000. That is if you meet this particular criteria. For married couples and civil partners, both the nil rate band and the residence nil rate band are transferable. If one partner doesn't use any of their allowance, for example by leaving everything to their spouse, which is tax-free, their unused allowance can be passed on to the surviving spouse. This is known as the transferable nil rate band. This means that combined, a couple could potentially pass on up to £1 million tax-free, as long as the estate includes a main residence passed to direct descendants. Anything above your available threshold, whether as an individual or as a couple, may be taxed at 40%, which is why planning ahead can make a big difference. So how can you protect your estate from a hefty tax bill? Let's go through some key strategies. Number 1, making use of lifetime gifts. Lifetime gifting is one of the most effective ways to reduce the size of your taxable estate, but it requires forward planning to maximize those benefits. Under the current rules, if you survive for 7 years after making a gift, that gift becomes completely free of inheritance tax. If you pass away within the 7 years, the amount of tax is reduced gradually through tapered relief. Careful early planning can therefore significantly lessen the eventual tax burden on your estate. Let's take Margaret for example. Now she's got an estate worth £700,000 and wanted to lessen the tax burden on her kids. Over several years she made gifts to her family, taking advantage of the annual £3,000 tax-free gift allowance and making larger gifts with the aim of surviving the 7-year period. Thanks to her forward planning, by the time she actually passed away, a significant portion of her estate fell outside of the scope of inheritance tax. So number 2, leaving money to charity. Including charitable donations in your estate plan can significantly reduce the inheritance tax rate applied to the whole of your estate. By leaving at least 10% of your net estate to a registered UK charity, the inheritance tax rate on the remaining taxable estate drops from 40% to 36%. This approach not only reduces your overall tax liability, but also allows you to contribute to causes that are meaningful to you. All charitable donations are exempt from inheritance tax, making them a strategic part of effective planning. In this context, net estate means the value of your estate after deducting debts and liabilities, but before applying any inheritance tax allowances like the nil rate band. As a quick example, let's say your estate is worth 1.5 million. After deducting debts and funeral costs of 50 grand, your net estate is now worth 1.45 mil. If you leave 10% of your estate, which is 145,000, to a UK registered charity, the rest of your taxable estate will qualify for the reduced inheritance tax rate of 36% instead of 40%. Number 3, setting up a trust. Trusts can be a valuable tool for reducing inheritance tax and controlling how your assets are passed on. For example, James and Lisa wanted to leave money to their grandchildren, but were concerned about them receiving a large sum too soon. By setting up a discretionary trust, they ensured the money would be managed responsibly and used for things like education or housing. By transferring the assets into a trust during their lifetime, James and Lisa also hope to reduce the size of their estate and, in turn, their potential inheritance tax liability. However, lifetime transfers into a trust are treated in the same way as other lifetime gifts, which means the 7-year rule still applies. James and Lisa would need to survive for 7 years after the transfer for the trust assets to be fully exempt from inheritance tax. If either of them actually died within that period, the value of the assets could still be taxed, though taper relief may reduce the amount, depending on how long they lived after making the transfer. It's also important to avoid what's known as a gift with a reservation of benefit. This applies when someone gives away an asset but continues to benefit from it, like gifting an ownership of a car to a relative but continuing to use it as your main vehicle. In these situations, HMRC does not recognise the gift for inheritance tax purposes. Instead, the asset is still treated as part of your estate when you die and may be subject to tax. Trusts can be highly effective, but they are also very complex. The rules are strict and even small errors can lead to unexpected tax consequences. That's why it's essential to seek professional advice when using trusts as part of an overall estate plan. Then we have number 4, taking out a life insurance policy. Now, a life insurance policy won't actually reduce your inheritance tax liability, but it can provide the funds needed to pay it, helping your family avoid selling assets to cover the bill. To prevent the payout from being taxed itself, the policy should be written into a trust. This keeps it outside of your estate and ensures it goes directly to your beneficiaries. Your provider can assist with setting up the trust and nominating beneficiaries. As rules around this can be complex, seeking professional advice is important. When set up correctly, life insurance can be a valuable part of your estate plan, offering security and peace of mind for your loved ones. To show how estate planning can make a real difference, let's look at 2 possible scenarios involving the same couple, Sarah and Michael. Now, in both scenarios, they had wills in place and made full use of their taxable allowances. However, the outcome changed significantly because of 2 key additional steps. In the first scenario, they stuck to the basics. And in the second, they went a little bit further by adding lifetime gifting and charitable giving to their plan. So let's walk through them both. Sarah and Michael were a married couple with an estate worth 1.5 million. That included a lovely family home worth 850,000 plus another 650,000 in savings and investments, the result of a lifetime of hard work. Their goal was simple. They wanted to pass everything on to their two kids. To their credit, they did the basics right. They kept their wills up to date, and when Sarah passed away, everything went to Michael completely tax-free, as it does between spouses. They also made sure that Sarah's unused allowances were preserved and transferred, so when Michael later passed away, their estate could use the full combined allowances. 650 grand from the standard nil rate bands and another 350,000 from the residence nil rate bands. So that totals £1 million tax-free. The problem? Their estate was worth 1.5 million. So even with all the allowances, £500,000 was still exposed to inheritance tax. And at 40%, that's £200,000 tax bill. A huge chunk gone before their children saw a penny. They'd done the standard planning, but not the strategic planning. Okay, now let's rewind and imagine Sarah and Michael took things a step further. Same estate, same goals, same children, but this time they spoke to an estate planning professional early on and made a few smart choices. First, they made use of lifetime gifting over several years. They gave £425,000 to their children. They used their annual gift exemptions and made larger gifts that became fully exempt after 7 years under the 7-year rule. This reduced the value of their estate down from 1.5 million to 1.075 million. Then, in their wills, they left £107,500 to charity, 10% of the net estate, calculated before any inheritance tax allowances were applied. Now, that donation didn't just support a cause they cared about, it also meant the rest of their estate qualified for the reduced 36% tax rate rather than the standard 40%. At this point, their estate, after the lifetime gifts and charitable donations, was valued at £967,500. And because they had preserved both sets of allowances, 650 grand from the nil rate bands and 350 grand from the residence nil rate bands, they had a combined £1 million tax-free allowance. Their remaining estate was now below this threshold. The result? No inheritance tax to pay. By planning ahead, they avoided a potential £200,000 tax bill. So what's the takeaway? We're looking at the same couple, Sarah and Michael, with the same estate worth 1.5 million and the same goal, to pass on as much as possible to their kids. Now, in the first scenario, they did the basics. Their wills were in place and they made full use of the tax-free allowances. But they didn't go any further. And because of that, their children were left with a £200,000 inheritance tax bill. In the second scenario, they planned ahead. They gave 425 grand to their kids during their lifetime, and they left £107,500 to charity in their wills. Now, those two steps, lifetime giving and charitable giving, meant their estate fell below the taxable threshold. The final outcome? Not a single penny lost to inheritance tax. Same estate, same goals, but thanks to some smart, simple planning, a completely different outcome. And that's why proper estate planning matters. Because with the right advice and a little forward thinking, you can make sure most of what you've built up ends up with the people and causes that matter most, not with the taxman. As we can see then, inheritance tax doesn't have to be such a burden. With careful planning, whether through lifetime gifting, trusts, charitable giving, or life insurance, you can take control of your estate and ensure your loved ones get the maximum benefit. At Elm Legal Services, we support families throughout England and Wales with clear, reliable estate planning. If you're unsure about where to start, head over to our website, via the link in the description to book your free consultation. We'll work with you to build a plan that suits your situation and gives you peace of mind. Thanks for joining us today. If you've got any questions or thoughts, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. We always enjoy hearing from you, and your feedback helps us improve and reach more people with more helpful content. So if you found the video useful, please give the like button a friendly handshake, hit subscribe and tap the notification bell so you don't miss any more of our future episodes. Remember, a little planning today can make a big difference tomorrow. So until the next time then, stay safe, stay informed and stay tuned.